Have you seen issues of disability harassment at your school? Or how about as a parent, have you felt you've been retaliated against because of your advocacy for your child? These are important issues. And one of the things that we can do about this is to file a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights. So when I thought about bringing this topic to you, I knew we had to have our guest on because she is the ultimate, I think, expert in our country as far as using the Office of Civil Rights complaint process to bring about equity for your children and your schools. So we are excited because Marcie Lipsitt from Michigan, and very active advocate in Michigan and also around the country, is with us today. Marcie is a parent. She has an adult son who receives special ed services. The other thing that I know about Marcie is that she probably goes to more Broadway shows than certainly any other advocate I know, but probably I don't know, you and your son must have like special seats with like your plaque, your name on a plaque, because you guys are so lucky and your son enjoys theater so much, and so do you, that you make it a point to have that fun in your life. So I think that's extremely important to have that balance. But Marcie, welcome, and let us know what else you would like to share about your story with us.
Charmaine, thank you. And thank you so much for having me today. I always think it's funny to be called an expert on anything because special education and education laws and findings and due process cases and state and federal court cases are changing every week. So it's hard to feel like an expert. If I'm an expert at anything, it's watching conditions erode and get harder for parents to navigate, and outcomes for children are just egregiously terrible. I was talking today that the U.S. Department of Ed has released, or as I always say, unleashed, the 2019 determination letters on how states are implementing IDEA. And from my perspective, these letters are always nothing short of ridiculous. They're meaningless, and no one should put any stock into them because the true measure is the outcomes for all these children, and the outcomes are awful. I always like to share, people that know me in Michigan or know me even around the country know that my advocacy didn't begin with my son. My advocacy began with my younger sister. So I have a sister who's 3.5 years younger and was born, I had this cute powder puff sister who was born anxious. And then by the time she was 5, had been diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia and dyscalculia and dysgraphia. And while my parents could pay for doctors and tutors, there were no private schools for my sister. And the public school district, which was considered the best at the time, made a mess of my younger sister. They retained her during 1 year, and then they pushed her back up into her regular grade. And I watched my sister go down some dark roads. I was her early voice. My mom used to say I was born carrying a soapbox. And then between my sister and my son was just decades of fighting for public education, fighting for special education, state and federal laws and rules and policies and procedures, and always believing in civil rights. I have believed in civil rights since I probably could walk or talk. And yes, in my spare time, and I do make time, I treasure trips to Broadway. It is the only place that my son says I shut my brain off for a couple of hours.
Yeah, and that, I think it's important for all of us to remember about that balance, because as parents and advocates, we spend so many hours doing things that we enjoy, which is our work, but then we also have other things that we need to remember too. So one of the things I thought, Marcie, when we could cover today is kind of reducing that intimidation of it sounds like, boy, if you file an Office of Civil Rights complaint to the federal government, I mean, that sounds pretty intimidating. So, what tips do you have? And then we can also show people the website with the online application too.
Sure. So the first thing I tell my parents is that the Office of Civil Rights belongs to we the people. We the people vote, we elect our state and federal legislators, and the Office of Civil Rights is here because of us. And if anyone should be intimidated, it should be the school districts, it should be colleges and universities, it should be businesses that are not accessible, it should be anyone that is not providing accountability and accessibility and treating children and adults with disabilities or minorities like they are equal citizens in this country, which everyone is. So, I have never been intimidated by the Office for Civil Rights. One, they are so approachable. I have yet to talk to an attorney with any of the 12 regional offices across this country that are not caring people. No one becomes an attorney or works for the Office for Civil Rights for fame and fortune because the pay is not wonderful, the hours are long and stressful, and it's very, very, very stressful work. It's stressful in that the work can change between administrations. Different presidents bring a different level of enforcement or lack of enforcement to the Office for Civil Rights. President Obama gave the Office of Civil Rights teeth that they had not had for a while. The current administration is trying to take away the dentures. But the attorneys themselves are very caring people.
Yeah. And I think, parents need to know that. Like you can, make a phone call and talk to someone there. And like you said, they're very approachable. It's not like you have to, feel like this is something that only an attorney or an advocate can handle, but that parents can be empowered to file these complaints. So let's bring up the, let's see.
I will jump in and say one of the things that I help families appreciate is you don't need an attorney to file a federal civil rights complaint. Anyone can file one of these. In fact, my son filed one 2 years ago. Anyone can file one, and at no time during the process do you need an attorney.
Right. And you can file on the behalf of someone else, right? And so it doesn't have to be that you've been, kind of a victim of the retaliation or that you see a lack of accessibility that's affected you personally, but you could still file a complaint about that accessibility issue, as a private citizen, right?
Yes, you can file a complaint on behalf of a group of individuals, which I have filed over a couple thousand just on web accessibility alone, and probably a dozen on playgrounds. You can file on behalf of a person, but if you're naming a person and that person is 18 or older, you need that person's written consent on the consent form. And if that person is younger than 18, you need the parent or guardian's written consent.
So that's good information to have. I'm going to welcome our live viewers that we have here. So Lisa is with us, and let me bring up her comment here. She says, Texas is under federal investigation. Nothing has changed yet, except they did away with the illegal cap.
Yeah, this is different than what we're talking about with the Federal Office for Civil Rights. Texas was under federal investigation with the United States Department of Education Office for Special Education Programs because of that outrageous cap. And while Michigan doesn't have that broad cap, Michigan has one on identifying students with learning disabilities. I'm outraged by Texas, but I'm outraged for a number of reasons, because for the U.S. Department of Ed to investigate your state when the U.S. Department of Ed had full knowledge and were well aware that the numbers were dropping in Texas, and they did nothing until the Houston Chronicle wrote that story. The U.S. Department of Ed should be on trial, just like Texas. The U.S. Department of Ed, they are the bad guys. It's like when I'm in Michigan and parents are complaining about school districts. School districts get away with what they do in Michigan because of the Michigan Department of Ed. State educational agencies in America get away with what they do every day because of the U.S. Department of Ed. And we have never held the U.S. Department of Ed accountable.
Right. I know it is, kind of mind boggling as far as, like you said, the knowledge that the U.S. Department of Ed has, and yet they continue to ignore, sweep under the rug, such egregious violations that it really is frustrating. I know sometimes parents have filed OCR complaints and have been really disappointed because they feel like, there really wasn't any kind of accountability. The school wasn't held accountable, or the district, and they feel really frustrated. And I know, I think Lee is on with us now, and I was going to bring up her comment. She said, yep, I tried that based on Marcie's advice. It was an absolute disaster and completely destroyed any chance at a working relationship. And she talked about retaliation and being careful to use it as a last resort. So I think that's the other thing, Marcie, that some people can find intimidating is they're worried, like if they do file a complaint, either their child or they as a parent are going to see more pressure and more retaliation. So I don't know if you can address that fear of being retaliated.
Well, I can, because if a district is ridiculous enough to retaliate against a parent for any kind of advocacy, advocacy is protected under Section 504 in the ADA, then parents can file a retaliation complaint. And I have seen retaliation. I've had districts retaliate against me. I don't see it largely with families that I am directly involved with. If I'm directly involved in a complaint, and usually I make myself with their permission and actually at their request, I am the other contact on the complaint form. I don't see districts that are openly retaliating against parents. I've had a few, especially as conditions have eroded. And then again, I help parents with retaliation complaints.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think, so many times, I think any kind of pushback that we see often from school districts when parents are advocating for their child is, the district making some move and, offering, or pushing back in some way and seeing if the parent is going to stop. I think they count on high percentages of parents dropping things because it does seem to get real frustrating and they are worried about retaliation. However, I think as parents become more knowledgeable about filing OCR complaints and how easy it is to really do online, that they see that parents are going to be persisting and that they are going to do every means they have to hold the schools accountable.
Well, and I would always ask or suggest, when parents say that filing a complaint jeopardizes the ability to work with a district, right, what does working with a district mean? Are you working with the district and giving up your child's right to meaningful educational benefit? Are you compromising away your child's right to meaningful educational benefit? My goal is always to get along. I had a very good relationship with my son's school district for most of my son's educational career. And I found that the getting along and being what I called the latte bringing, cookie tray bringing, deli tray bringing, gift certificate giving, private paying parent did not ultimately bring Andrew a free appropriate public education. And we're not really in a climate that lends itself to really working collaboratively with school districts, at least not in states like Michigan. It's very, very difficult.
Yeah, and I think, like you talk, speak about as far as the climate, and we see that from, the federal Department of Ed, and, and that does have an impact, I think, on some, how some states are feeling like they get permission to kind of keep chipping away and eroding at parents' rights. And unfortunately, that's part of the reality, right, that we live in. But I know also that it is extremely important for parents to understand, that they do have a variety of resolution processes that they can use. So maybe, Marcie, you can talk a little bit about the importance of looking at what the issue is and then picking the right resolution process and what works best for an OCR complaint.
Sure. The easiest federal civil rights complaint to file is when accommodations that are in a student's 504 plan or in a student's IEP, individualized education program, are not implemented. So if a student has 20 accommodations and is in middle school or high school and has multiple teachers, and if one of those teachers isn't providing even one of those accommodations, like teacher notes or study guides, or I hear all the time from parents, well, the teacher said that my son never asked. Children don't have to ask for accommodations. If accommodations are documented, they need to be offered. And if teachers are not providing those accommodations, those are easy civil rights complaints. I've never had one that the OCR in Cleveland has rejected. And they are complaints that, based on what happens because accommodations are not provided. If a student fails a class or a couple of classes and has to do credit recovery, I have families that pay for credit recovery. I've been able to get parents reimbursed the fees for paying for credit recovery. I've been able to get parents countless hours of tutoring, both tutoring in private centers and tutoring through school districts after school on weekends during the summer. So there are a lot of good resolutions. So accommodations are always a good complaint. As an advocate, if I'm meeting with a family that is really struggling and the student has an IEP, I look very carefully at the components of the IEP, and I look at, does a parent have grounds to file a state special education complaint and a federal civil rights complaint? And if you can separate out the allegations and file both complaints, you have pretty good leverage on your school district to impact positive change for your child. And most of the time, I find that it is positive. Again, the retaliation is a very, very small percentage of parents.
Right. And Holly is with us, and Holly says that she worries about retaliation. And Lisa was saying, how do you build a case of retaliation? How do you prove it?
Well, it depends what the retaliation is. I had a situation where, and this is happening more and more everywhere, where districts who want to retaliate are calling Child Protective Services. I actually had a director that called Child Protective Services on me 10 years ago because she wanted to frighten me. And she had never met my son, but she alleged that I was neglecting him, trying to frighten me and push me out of the school district. That did not happen. The caseworker for Child Protective Services, in one phone call, when he understood what I do as an advocate, said all he needed to do was meet my son for 5 minutes, and that was the end of that. I had another case where Child Protective Services was called on parents, and the CPS worker actually said to the parent, ask me for a copy of my final report because this school district went too far, and I think you have a retaliation case. So sometimes it's asking enough questions, it's asking for reports, If a family is retaliated against and Child Protective Services is contacted, ask for a copy of that final report. Caring CPS workers will document when they think a school district has gone too far. I have a case right now that is open with the OCR. A father was banned from a school building and parking lot for asking questions. He was banned and has been paying someone to drive to pick up his youngster every day because his wife works full time. At the same time, this school district made what I call an educational mess out of a little boy with ADHD and was suspending him right and left. They never asked permission to do a functional behavior assessment. They did nothing until they actually said, a year and a half into suspensions for a kindergartner who is now a first grader, we want to evaluate for special education. And I was able to file 2 civil rights complaints, one for the child, one for the father, and the Office for Civil Rights opened both for investigation. So when you can tie it to a child and to the fact that a child's rights have been violated and then a parent is retaliated against, that's a pretty strong retaliation complaint.
Yeah, that's true. Hallie asks, what are typically timelines for investigations to the final conclusions?
So that's a bit of a free-for-all because there are 12 regional offices and I have experience with all 12, and some of them are much faster than others. Cleveland, my regional office, is especially slow. They have a very large caseload. They would say that to some degree that's because of me and all of my web accessibility complaints, but that they had that caseload before I had filed hundreds and hundreds in Cleveland. The reality is that the Federal Office for Civil Rights has always been underfunded and understaffed. These caseworkers are stretched too thin. So best case that I have seen out of Cleveland, where I file the majority of complaints because I live in Michigan and I'm helping families, evaluating and opening a complaint will take 4 to 6 months. And once it's opened, the Office for Civil Rights, and I always include this in a resolution, that if the Office for Civil Rights deems the complaint appropriate for facilitated resolution between parties, that the parent is willing. And facilitated resolution between parties is always a really good option. It's much better than letting the OCR take a complaint all the way through an investigation phase that can take anywhere from a year to 4 years. Facilitated resolutions can drive really good outcomes. Again, I've gotten families anywhere from 50 to 1,000 hours of tutoring. I get all kinds of things done. I've had expulsions turned around. I've had long-term suspensions removed. I've had parents are able to get really, really good independent education evaluations. So the resolution meetings are very, very, very helpful if you are prepared. You have to be prepared that if you go to resolution, your school district will almost always bring an attorney. That doesn't bother me. I'm used to it, but it can be intimidating for some families. A parent doesn't need an attorney, but a parent can clearly always have one if that parent wants one and can afford one. The OCR in the last 7 months has started a new project called Rapid Resolution. And Rapid Resolution has been interesting. Rapid Resolution is a process that includes the Federal Office for Civil Rights taking a cursory look at a complaint that is filed. Is it timely? Do we have jurisdiction? And do they see enough evidence that through an evaluation, they would open it for investigation? And if they believe all of that is true, they are reaching out to families in anywhere from a couple of days to 2 weeks and asking if parents are interested in entering into rapid resolution. And if the parent agrees, they will reach out to the school district, if a school district is involved, including a charter school, including a college or university. And as long as that school district agrees, then a rapid resolution meeting is scheduled. I prefer them in person than by telephone. I have only had a couple that the caseworker has wanted to do it by phone, and I have told parents to push for in person. My one and only resolution meeting by phone was not successful, simply because I don't think it works. But an in-person meeting, these rapid resolutions have to be done in roughly 30 days. So they are very, very quick. And they're hard for advocates during the school year because trying to schedule a meeting within 30 days is hard. I have a couple that are being scheduled this summer. And the results from these rapid resolutions can be very, very, very positive.
So, yeah, I think that's really helpful that they're starting to do that, because I think that's one of the downsides of an OCR complaint is there's not that timeline like there is for state complaints or due process. And so it can, I don't know, the ones that I'm familiar with as far as helping parents file, I think the quickest decision we got was a year and a half. So people have to know, but also like if you file for due process, I mean, even though there's timelines, if that gets appealed, that can be years, right? So none of these are necessarily going to be a quick fix. But it is something I think that helps the district know that somebody is watching. It helps the State Department of Ed know when there's an OCR investigation. I think that there are still families that feel that, this is something that, maybe the district and OCR are kind of in cahoots. So Heather is with us, and she says that OCR and the school districts have each other's backs. Do you honestly think OCR is going to believe the parent? I had substantial evidence staring OCR right in the face, and they just looked the other way. What is wrong with these people? How can they sleep at night? Grrr.
So my response to a parent that is this frustrated is always, I want to read the complaint, because too often I find that the evidence documented in an OCR complaint is not solid enough, or it's not organized enough, or it frankly doesn't fall under their jurisdiction. And I always understand the frustration parents feel. I live in the land of angry and stroke alert every single day because I'm outraged by what I see every single day. But I do find that parents, because their kids don't come with playbooks and they're not experts in IDEA or 504 or ADA, and there's very little help out there available. There's less and less help in states, that filing a complaint that isn't meritorious is relatively easy to do. And then parents grow very, very disillusioned by the Office of Civil Rights.
Right. So what would be, and let's go over.
And I'm happy to have a parent email me a complaint
to look at. Okay. And so and I'll post some of your links in the description afterwards, but do you want to just verbally give people how to connect with you right now?
Sure. I have a website, marcielipsitt.com, and my name is spelled Marcielipsitt.com. My email address is also my name, Marcie Lipsitt @outlook.com. And I have people from all over the country that email me with questions, especially about the Office for Civil Rights. Sometimes it's on special education issues and IDEA and state complaints, but most of the time it's on civil rights.
Good. So yeah, so this is Marcie's website. So I would encourage parents to go there. The other thing is, and I'll bring this up, and then if our viewers can let us know if the font is big enough to even be worthwhile to show you, I can give you the link for this, but I thought it might be helpful to go through what the online complaint requirements are. And so for parents to know that this can be an easy process. So you go here to the Office of Civil Rights Complaint, and they call it their assessment system. You can check your language, then begin assessment. And it says, I'm thinking about filing a complaint on behalf of me, my minor child, a person for whom I am a guardian, other individual or group. So let's say today we're going to file one on a minor child. I'm thinking about filing a complaint of discrimination based on, and we're going to say disability, continue. The institution I'm thinking of complaining about. So this is important for you to know. It's not just public schools, but also private schools if they receive federal funding. It's things like the public library, public vocational rehab agency, a private rehab agency if they receive federal funding. So we're going to say that this is for a public school or college. And then what's nice is they give you the date because you can only file complaints 6 months back. And so it says for today, did any of these acts that you're thinking of complaining about happen on or before December 29th, 2018? And you need to be able to say yes. You need to stay within that 180-day timeline. Then the next question is, has the same matter been filed somewhere else? So this is where you want to make sure that, like Marcie said earlier, that you split the issues. So you only file an Office of Civil Rights complaint about something that you're not already in a resolution process. So I'm going to say that no, it hasn't been filed anywhere else. And then here you get to start the complaint submission. So this is all the demographic information, the person that was discriminated, the institution. So down here where we get to describe the discrimination. So Marcie, do you want to talk about the importance of filling out this section?
Yeah, the two most important sections are the discrimination and the resolution you are proposing. And when you submit this complaint and you hit the submit button, I always craft the discrimination section and the resolution on either my iPad notepad or on a Word document. And then I cut and paste it into those boxes. One, because when you submit that complaint and the OCR sends you back a very quick notice, it's usually within a minute, that they have received your complaint, it does not include your allegation or your resolution. And you always want to hold on to those. The other reason that I always cut and paste into the discrimination boxes, I want to make sure that everything is spelled correctly. I always do these, I either enumerate or I do them in bullet points. I tell people, keep it very simple. Don't do a narrative. You have to write these so that OCR attorneys and staff have as information that is as clear and easy to comprehend as possible. You want to, if you have dates, you want to include dates. And if in fact you're alleging that supplementary aids in an IEP were not provided or 504 accommodation wasn't provided, after you submit this complaint, you have to print a one-page consent form that is self-explanatory. You fill in your name, the institution's name, you sign and date allowing them to investigate, and then you either scan an email to the regional office for civil rights or you fax. And I always tell families, include the page of supplementary aids and the front page of the IEP, or include the 504 plan. If you can give them that evidence, then they're less likely to send you an email with a bunch of questions because they already have it. So being as succinct and clear as you can be is very important. Emails are fabulous. If you have inflammatory emails that support your complaint, cut and paste them into that discrimination box. That's very, very, very helpful. And they can be the gift that keeps on giving. So
yeah, and I wonder, I think what you're saying is really important because you want some, it's kind of like that letter to a stranger with, Pete Wright, as far as you want it to be so that people can kind of go step by step. You were walking through the timeline and the process of what happened. But you want to be concise about it or else they just get lost in this story, right? And so I think that's incredibly important. And I think, taking the time to, write that out before you start typing in the online form makes it really handy also, because you can go back and reword, ask somebody else to read it, see if it makes sense to them. You have that ability to do that before you actually cut and paste it into the online form. And so is there anything else? Holly had a question about the facilitated resolution. But before we go there, were there any other points that you wanted to make about the online form, Marcie?
No, the online form itself is very, very, very easy. I mean, I've done enough of these that it takes me anywhere from 25 minutes to, at the longest, an hour to file a federal civil rights complaint. If there's a lot of information, it might take me longer to organize that information, but actually filling out and filing this is very, very simple. It's far simpler than writing and submitting a special education state complaint, because state complaint forms are not user friendly. You end up having to do a lot of writing, and they're much more time consuming than a civil rights complaint. And while civil rights complaints don't have a formal timeline like a state complaint, if you can wait them out, usually you achieve a better result than you do from special education state complaints, at least in the year 2018 and 19, and until there are changes.
Until we have another election, maybe.
So Education Secretary.
Yeah, really. Holly says, what paperwork are you signing at a facilitated resolution, and what ensures that the school has to follow through with identification of the resolution?
So at a resolution, you are signing that one, that you're there and you're there willingly. You're signing that if you reach resolution, then you are withdrawing your complaint because you have reached resolution. So you want to be very careful. Are you really, really reaching resolution? And if you reach resolution, the OCR attorney will type up that agreement, typically at that meeting. Every once in a while, I have the attorney will say, I will do it and email it to you tomorrow. But almost always it's at the meeting. And then you read it, and you have to read it carefully because, again, you're withdrawing your complaint. And as long as you agree and you sign it, if the school district does not follow through with that resolution, the first thing, and the OCR attorneys will tell you, is to reach out to them and let them know that something is not being followed. And they will follow up. If the school district really refuses to implement, you can file another complaint with the OCR. So that door is not closed. I've had good success. And I'm not saying everyone has good success or that I won't one day with a family not have success, but I have yet to have a district that has not implemented an agreed upon signed resolution agreement.
Okay. Well, and that's helpful because I think people do need to know if that does occur, like there is still another step that you can do, that you're not, stuck with feeling like it wasn't really implemented. But picking up the phone and making a phone call to OCR and, asking for some guidance. I think when I've talked to OCR people in Denver and Seattle, that they've been really helpful, and they can help parents kind of steer, like, this is what you need to say, or I don't know, maybe they didn't exactly give that, but it was like, this would be an issue that OCR could, look at investigating. This would not be an issue. So I find like they're really helpful in providing guidance to families when they call the office.
They are. And if they don't answer because, again, they're short-staffed, they always return calls.
Right. Well, Marcie, I know we're reaching our time frame here because Marcie's got other things happening, as a busy person. So I want to make sure that we honor our time commitment. And I want you to know, if you're watching live or on the replay, that you are welcome to continue to ask questions. And I will respond. And if there's something that I'm unsure of, I can contact Marcie and get her advice too. But this is a topic that I think parents need to learn more about. and need to be able to feel confident that they can go online and that they can, start this process. And it can be something like playground accessibility. I mean, there are lots of things that are in our environment that are barriers for kids. And we want to make sure that the OCR office is aware of those barriers and then, how they can be reduced and removed, right? So as we're closing, Marcie, do you have any final words to share with us?
I just think it's important for parents to understand their procedural safeguards. I tell parents when I'm explaining procedural safeguards and I'm explaining state complaints and I'm explaining due process hearable complaints, I'm explaining independent education evaluations or civil rights complaints. I tell parents, I'm here to teach. What you do with the information I share is always a family decision. And as an advocate, I respect that. But I want parents to be able to understand and make an informed decision always.
Right. Thank you so much. We are live every Thursday. Next Thursday, however, is the 4th of July, so I am taking that day off. I won't be going to a Broadway show, but I will be doing fun things with grandkids. And then the week after that, Thursday, July 11th, I've actually got my son booked to come on, and Dylan is going to be talking about inclusion, not only pre-K through high school, but also as a college student. And so we're going to be talking about more inclusive opportunities at colleges and universities, and that will be our topic on July 11th. So I hope that you will stay tuned to our weekly live shows. Know that the replay is always available. And you can, make sure that your friends know about this too, because the more that we can share information with other parents, the bigger difference that we can make. So Marcie, thank you again for all your time and sharing your expertise and experience with us today. And I will just remind viewers that I am Charmaine Tanner, and I will see you next on Thursday, July 11th. So everybody take care.